So you're the first Arab who ever went to the North Pole.
The magnetic North Pole.
The
yes.
magnetic North Pole.
First Arab to walk. We must say that walk because, as I told you, there's people who claim to have been there.
How did the idea come about?
How did the idea come about? The idea came about because I was in Bahrain and I met a friend of mine at lunch, and he had the year before tried to climb Everest, and he was trying to become the first Bahraini, I think, to climb Everest. And we'd done some running together. We were in the road runners together in Bahrain. And so we were just talking about things, and he was saying that he was going to try this year, 2009, April, May 2009, to try and climb Everest. So this was about 12 months ago. And the more we talked, he was looking for another team member. So we were talking, and then he said, you know, because I've done a lot of similar things in the past, he was saying, you know, why don't you think about it? And at the time, obviously, I was like, ah, don't be crazy.
But why you, though?
Why me? Because of the things I've done in the past, because I've been in the army, because I've climbed mountains before, because I've done marathons, because I've done all these things previously. So I've got a history. I played rugby for Bahrain for a long time, so people in Bahrain know me because I used to play rugby. Mm-hmm. And rugby's very popular in, well, not very popular, but you know, certainly amongst the expat community, the rugby club is the focal point for a lot of it.
Okay, so he chose you.
So he said, no, he suggested I do it, and I thought about it, and he was having lunch in an area near where my office was, so I kept on meeting him every few days. I kept meeting him, and the conversation went on, and the idea was planted in my mind, and you know, and I suddenly thought, why not? Why not? Why not be the first Omani to climb up Everest? You know.
Okay.
There was a Kuwaiti who did it about 4 or 5 years ago, so it wouldn't have been the first GCC or first Arab. But anyway, after a while, I started asking. You know, when you think about these things, you don't just go, "Yes, I'm going to do it." You sort of, it germinates in your brain. It grows. And I started talking to friends, ex-military friends or whoever, people who've done these expeditions and adventures before. I asked them, you know, what do you think, and you know, advice and blah blah. So I started talking to them, and one of them had rowed across the Atlantic and then walked to the magnetic North Pole. And he said, why not forget about Everest, why not walk to the magnetic North Pole? We had these conversations. He's now, he's a Conservative MP in the UK now. So we were just chatting about these things, and the key points were, just to climb Everest, just to get the permit to climb is 25,000 US. Just to get the permit. That's not without the, you know, all the other expedition costs, the equipment, blah blah. Let's just start 25,000 if you get the permit. So,
why if? What are the conditions?
Well, they hand out a limited number of permits because there's too many people trying to climb it.
Okay.
So, and then if you do get it, it's $25,000. So it was very expensive, and very dangerous. About 10% of the people that climb Everest die, or 10% of the people who try to climb Everest die, and they're all experienced climbers, and I'm not. They're all very expert mountaineers, and I'm a novice. So, you know, my probability of dying just went up like 20–30%. Yeah. And then, so yeah, it was more expensive, it was more dangerous, and it wasn't as unique. 2,500 people have climbed Everest, and it was only roughly 200 people that walked to the magnetic North Pole. So, and it was more unique, and this Kuwaiti had climbed already Everest. So, in the end, when you look at those things, you suddenly think, well, actually North Pole sounds like a better idea. You know, more unique, you know, less people have done it, first Arab, and less expensive and less dangerous. So I switched from Everest to the North Pole, and that's how the North Pole idea came about.
So it became more about achieving what has not been done yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So who did you go with?
I went with 12 English guys and 1 Australian.
And 1 Australian. No other Arabs wanted to go with you? And what's the distance? Where did you land, and how much did you walk to get there?
Okay. So the distance from where we started, it's almost like a set route. because the magnetic North Pole is, see, what you have to understand is the magnetic North Pole is not fixed. The South magnetic pole is not fixed. It moves, and it moves 120 nautical miles a day in a big sort of ellipse. Mm-hmm. And every day that ellipse moves as well, so it doesn't just move like this. It moves around the Earth, not randomly, but it does move. So to get to the magnetic North Pole, what has happened is, in '96, the Canadian government fixed a certain point as the certified last position of the magnetic North Pole, and then all sort of adventurers, they walk from Resolute Bay, a fixed point, to another fixed point, and that is classed as a specific expedition. Okay. And so that fixed point is ever since that is the place that everyone walks to.
So you land at a certain point, but then you have to continue walking to the...
Well, we fly to Resolute Bay, which is the most northerly town in the world, I think, or the second most northerly town. It's the most northerly town in Canada, that's for sure. And then from that point, on this Cornwallis Island, you then walk from the town across the sea, because it's frozen obviously, across the ice, and you walk all the way up to the North Pole.
Okay, and do you know the distance?
650 kilometers,
wow.
Roughly.
And how long did that take you?
It took 24 days from start to finish.
24 days?
Yeah.
So tell us about the whole experience, the whole 24 days. What did you go through? I'm sure it was crazy.
But on those last, we finished the expedition for that last leg in 2.5 days. I ate 5 days worth of food in that. I ate 40,000 calories in 2 days.
Ooh, I still lost 10.
And I still lost 10 kilograms. And when we got to the North Pole and we were snowed in, I was craving food. And I only had 1 day's supply of food left.